Okay, so for this edition of ABNcast, we're in the ABNcast studio in London, and I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Joe Leader, who's from APEX, the Airline Passenger Experience Association. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Lee. I appreciate it.
No problem. So you're gearing up for your annual event over in the US. Why don't you tell us a bit about how the plans are going? And what anyone who is going to the event this year can expect.
Certainly. So the Airline Passenger Experience Association gathers together with three different organizations. We have APEX, we have IFSA, the International Flight Services Association, and we have Future Travel Experience. Under one roof, we bring together over 3,000 people from across over 100 different airlines, over 60 different airports from around the globe. And we advance the future of passenger experience from everything from in-flight to entertainment on board to food and beverage to the biometrics that you use across the airport. So we're looking forward to having that at the end of October in Los Angeles at the Long Beach Convention Center. And we're also going to be unveiling the passenger experience of a new aircraft that we can't wait to share with the world.
Okay, can you tell us a bit more about that, or is that still under wraps?
No, it's absolutely shareable. So the Jet Zero aircraft is a blended wing body aircraft, and this is an aircraft that will reduce fuel burn by 50% from current aircraft. It does that by, instead of normally we're used to a tube and wings, in a blended wing aircraft, the entire aircraft itself is one contiguous wing. It has 4 rows of passenger experience, and they're able to utilize single aisle engines to support a long range transatlantic, trans-Pacific type of body that will hold 250 or 260 passengers. So all of our airlines from around the world will get to walk through the first passenger experience reveal exclusively at APEX Global Expo.
So that's clearly going to be one of the highlights. Well, what else do you think the show is going to focus on this year? What are the big trends in passenger experience?
I think one of the most remarkable trends, as we see our industry turning into have and have-nots right now, the airlines that are doing the best, that are making the most profits, are the ones that are focusing the most on their customer experience. Are they investing enough in their passengers and really giving them enough positive options on board? Those are the airlines that right now tend to be making about 70 to 80% of the profits worldwide. And I think you're seeing a trend where even low-cost carriers and ultra-low-cost carriers are looking to do more for their customers, recognizing that by serving them, they'll actually be more profitable as airlines and better stewards for the world.
Yeah, you often associate this kind of approach to the higher end carriers, you know, the higher end seats. That's a real experience, and you wonder whether you can do a lot when it comes to the lower end of the market, the budget carriers. But from what you're saying, you think that actually all carriers should be looking at this and trying to improve the experience overall for every passenger.
I think this has been a watershed year. When you see airlines that are ultra low cost carriers like Frontier and Spirit changing their business model to focus on more space, more seats, more flexibility, it's a huge positive. I think you're seeing more airlines put forward more screens and more entertainment than ever before. And the remarkable correlation that we've seen is for airlines that have in-flight entertainment on board, so they actually have screens at the majority of their seats. That's where we're seeing 70 to 80% of the profits worldwide. So it's a good trend. People are willing to pay more for the right experience. They want the choice, but they're willing to pay for more legroom and coach. They're willing to pay to be upgraded to business class and premium economy. We're seeing some good trends there.
Yeah. And this is all often wrapped up in the word, a term called personalization, I think, is where we're going to, especially with IFE and screens where you've got that ability to interact with a guest, maybe even sort of up to 7 or 8 hours. And it's how you can make that experience unique to that passenger. Is the airline industry progressing on that score, do you think? Are we becoming more adaptable to the needs of the individual?
We're doing a better job of serving our customers when they want to be served. So for example, Delta with Delta Sync, you have the ability to log on and continue with all of your preferences from the past movie. You've had other airlines like Singapore and Qatar able to do that for quite some time. But one of the new standouts this year has been JetBlue's Blueprint, where you can actually have a screen watching party with those around you. And instead of having to do the 1, 2, 3 press movies at the same time, it will actually synchronize with up to 5 other people with you so that you can watch the same movie. And if one person presses pause, it pauses for all so that you can experience things together like you were in a movie theater, except you're going through the sky. So it's nice to see those personal touches building up in the right ways.
Yeah. How do you think things are sort of evolving in terms of the debates about connectivity in the sky? There was a period when the airlines were pushing it. Some customers are saying, you know what, I don't want to be connected while I'm traveling. I think maybe those days are gone. That there's now an expectation that you get access to Wi-Fi, you get access to the services that Wi-Fi can offer. Do you think that debate is now finished and now there's simply an expectation that you can be connected while flying?
It is an expectation, and I think that customers are disappointed when they get completely cut off. We've recommended at APEX that airlines provide messaging for free to all customers. It's literally only typically a few cents per passenger to give them access to text messaging. And what we see is that when you do that, they tend to they'll get a notification someone sent them a picture or something that won't go through text. They'll tend to upgrade their experience if it's paid. The other really positive news that we've seen is for airlines that provide free connectivity, it's massively increasing their net promoter scores. So they're effectively, customers are getting positively conditioned to go to the airlines that are providing the best Wi-Fi experience and the most options for them.
Yeah. What do you think was the impact around COVID on this? Has that just raised expectations, excuse me, among passengers, so that they now really expect a kind of experience that maybe like 20 years ago you would think is just impossible in the sky?
I think after COVID, I think that what we had a period of time where everyone got used to, if they were traveling, it was a little bit nicer. You had a little bit more room. Lounges suddenly became much more important than they were in the past.
Yeah.
And now we've seen passengers gravitate to where the lounges are brimming full. We have so many people accustomed to lounges that everyone has gotten a credit card or other option that gets them into lounges and waiting. The same on board, in that when we had, some airlines would block middle seats, some airlines would make sure you had tons of room during that time. They like that. They've wanted to continue it, and that's why you see airlines like Southwest Airlines, which making sure that they move towards extra legroom seats, which is a major fleet adaptation for them, where they're going to have to reconfigure their aircraft for these new modalities. The same with other airlines that are actually blocking middle seats and doing what is known in Europe as European business class, where you're able to have more room. I think that that's a positive hangover from COVID, where expectations raised and customers don't want them to go down. They're willing to pay for that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, an absolute key aspect to any experience flying in the airport and when you're on the aircraft itself is the number of people that are there doing it at the same time with you. So it's queuing, it's just the sheer demand and scale. And we've seen huge comeback after COVID, but the demand for flying is clearly there. So there's elements of the experience which are outside of the hands of the airlines, even the airports. It's just they've got to cope with numbers. How does the industry do better at that? There's obviously going to be technological solutions to that in order to manage passenger flows and so on. But what's happening at the minute for the airlines and airports to manage that experience when you're there in a busy airport?
I think that enhanced biometrics is something that will speed the process through. We've also seen, as you know, within Europe, as of September 1st, we had the mandate that everyone can now leave their liquids in their bags. This is in theory. We're going to see in the weeks ahead how it is in reality, so that you are not having to pull everything out because of the new scanners that are utilized. I think that airports need to work on flow through. And for airlines, APEX has been recommending some newer methodologies to bring a little bit more civility to travel. I think the time that we all dislike it is when there's that mad rush with everyone crowding the gate and it being too many people at one time. Some of the more civilized boarding sequences are where airlines, instead of making it all at once, Southwest Airlines actually has order by number boarding. So you're actually given a individual number for each person so that they're able to jump on board. You literally, if you're number 25, I've walked up as A25 and I just I walk up, I go between A24 and A26, and that's where I board. And they only call up people 60 at a time. I think newer methodologies like that are really positive for our industry. And I think that's one of the types of technologies that we'll be showing at APEX Global Expo with Future Travel Experience Global.
Yeah. What other technologies should we be looking at? I know the airports are really getting into biometrics. It's that kind of frictionless passage through an airport. You don't have to stop and show your documents maybe at all, or it's certainly very seldom. And this technology is being rolled out. I think, there's Middle Eastern airports now that have it operational. Are we going to be seeing a lot more of that going forward?
You will, and we have all of the new biometrics companies that are joining us in Long Beach. We also have a lot more focused on artificial intelligence. So when you look towards how airlines are focusing on flow through and what happens during irregular operations, you want to have the AI that's serving the passenger individually, not simply moving them to whatever the computer system says is best. So, for example, when there's a flight disruption, now I'm able to go into my mobile app and able to select my next flight instead of just being told I have to do so and so. It's a nice step forward. The other nice occurrence right now that we're going to be featuring in Long Beach is a lot more focused on robotics and how robotics can serve around the airport, and then other new technologies that passengers will like in the airport. So, for example, we have it now where you'll be able to listen in airline lounges and at airport television screens through your own personal headset. So you'll be able to take your phone, pair up using a QR code, and continue listening to a screen that's in front of you in the airport or in the lounge without having to go through a complicated setup.
Yeah, it's for passengers, particularly when there's disruption, but even when things are going smoothly, it's access to information that's often the most frustrating thing. And even sometimes you're not able to get the information from people on the ground because they can't access it. So it's this ability to get the information that you need to the customer in a good time and make it accurate as well, so you're not giving them false information. Is the industry improving its ability to do that, do you think?
It's getting much better. What I find, for example, I was in a flight situation last week where the airline was not communicating clearly enough. And I went up and I spoke to the gate agents because I was using an app that was tracking the inbound flight. And I told them, I said, this flight is going to be delayed for an hour and 15 minutes. And I told this to the gate agents before it was announced. Now, that's because I'm industry and I'm watching and I'm trying to be a helpful passenger. Yeah. I think for a lot of passengers, they're getting more and more information than ever before. What I like is what United Airlines Scott Kirby has said to his team on what he expects in the United Airlines app. He says, I want you to treat every one of our passengers as if I was on the flight myself. I want you to tell us what the weather or what the inbound aircraft situation is, what is causing the delay, where is my aircraft, give me exact information as if it was me, the CEO of the airline. And what that's done is that's raised the bar on the United app where it gives tons of information saying there is a 20-minute landing delay at Newark that's affecting inbound flights. It's caused this delay for your flight. We estimate your flight will be pushing back at this time. I think customers would prefer too much information at the right time rather than not enough. And we're making some great strides finally on that front. AI is going to be game changing because then it will be intelligent information in the right way for the right level of customer.
Yeah. Let's talk about AI because everybody wants to talk about AI at the minute. And if you're honest, it might be that we're talking AI up a lot, maybe overhyping it to a degree, although I'm not even sure in the long term you can overhype what AI may end up being able to do. Is that one of the technologies you're most optimistic about in terms of how the impact it will have?
I am. I have to tell you, when it comes to the adoption of technology, I'm always a little bit like, where does this fit? So, for example, when blockchain in travel, I have felt like blockchain was a little bit of a solution seeking out a problem
Right.
versus AI is going into how customers flow in their everyday life. In just a few weeks, we're going to have iOS 18, and then our friends at Android are in nearly parallel paths where
Mhm.
you're going to be able to have conversive AI with your device, where it's going to know the flights that you're on. You're going to be able to get real time information at the right level for you. And it's going to be intelligent in how it interacts with you as an individual. So on your device, that's the missing piece is airlines just pushing information and not being able to give context doesn't serve their customers.
Yeah.
But artificial intelligence, where it's generative in the right way, is so helpful. Yesterday, for example, my mother was connecting in Dallas, Texas, at age 82, going to Little Rock. She had a flight misconnection, and then they moved her gate 4 times before her next flight in 2 hours versus if it's generative AI, they could say this flight has just been moved to so and so gate. It may be moved again before your flight time. You might not want to move since you're being moved around in a wheelchair until time. That
Mm.
contextual basis is the difference between someone like myself that might happily go to 4 different gates and someone like my mom that wants it to be the final answer before she has help to make a move.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the big debates around AI in the general sense is essentially around the trustworthiness of it, and this is very, very important, as you will know, in aviation, that we're essentially quite a conservative, risk-averse industry. Have to be, clearly. Does adoption of this kind of new tech and these new processes require the industry to rein back on a little bit on the risk aversiveness, or just to take a little bit of a different stance on it in order to sort of maintain momentum and not block progress?
I think that what we owe to our customers and to our passengers is a commitment. If AI is predicting that your flight is going to go 2 hours late, guess what? Like you need to stand by that. If it's
Yeah.
running a little bit early, you can't just say, "Oh, we're going to move up the flight." I think that's where customers get really disappointed is when there's something predictive and then all of a sudden their flight's no longer there and they said, "Oh, we got going a few minutes earlier." That's not fair to customers. In the same way, what I really like about generative AI that lives on your device where you have control, whether it's on iOS or on Android, is that having it be based around you and your choices is much more appropriate than just having this push methodology of the same one size fits all for every customer. I think that's what we're going to have to move towards.
Yeah.
And if you look at what our airlines are doing that are on the bleeding edge and leading edge of technology, they're looking to serve customers with the right type of information. Even JetBlue with their blueprint, they're saying, how would you like your name displayed if you would like your name displayed on a screen? That's thoughtful application of new technologies.
Yeah, it's thinking from the customer's perspective, isn't it? And that's
Yes.
often hard to do in an industry that's so logistical and it's got so many processes that appear more important than what the customer wants. But it's a different, it's like a mindset, really, a mindset change, isn't it?
It's a major mindset change, and it's important. Like if my screen says Joe Leader, I'm happy for it to say that. If the
Yeah,
screen next to mine said Jennifer Aniston, I would be looking for the actress to sit down next to me any second, and I don't think she would want that. So, and someone with her similar name probably doesn't want that either. So it's
yeah,
the right information, right way, right time.
yeah. This comes at a cost, every tech project, these don't come cheap. So the industry's got to find a way to pay for this. It's great that I think there's been this pretty much 100% return from the COVID disaster, and the industry is back. So money is coming back into the industry to invest in this. But is this going to be paid for, do you think, through higher fares? You said earlier that the airlines investing in this are the most profitable because they're able to get their customers to pay more for these services. Is it going to be customer funded, or who's going to pay? Is it going to be? It's probably going to be a mixture of things, but who's really going to pay for this kind of investment?
That's a great question, Lee. The one thing I'll tell you at APEX Global Expo, so we have a great mix of chief airline customer experience officers, CEOs, and most interestingly, chief commercial officers, the ones that figure out how things are paid for and how to
Yeah.
connect the dots between the customer experience and making sure that we're serving our industry well financially. I believe that what customers are choosing is if they want to get the lowest possible fare and the best possible deal, then they're electing the lower fare bases that, from an inflation index perspective, it's 50% of what it was 20 years ago once you account for inflation.
Right.
It's because we've debundled as much as we possibly can. But the other reason is they are being passengers that don't want to pay more are being supplemented by passengers that do want to pay more. These are basically the customers that are volunteering that I want extra legroom seats. I want more space. I want premium economy. I want to pay for Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
So I think that balance gives us the best of both worlds, where you're not going to see this draconian new fare basis for everyone at the lowest level. No, the fares, especially given historical standards, will remain at a very nice flight level, especially with the amount of competition we have. But as you go further upstream, we see a lot more competition for premium economy and business class seats than we ever anticipated. Some
Right.
airlines are having to expand the number of seats because they can't accommodate the amount of demand, and that makes flying more affordable for everyone else.
Yeah, we've spoken so far about tech and sort of hardware, and these are the sort of more really visible aspects of the experience. There's a lot of well-being issues around flying as well. How are airlines adapting in terms of changing expectations around the well-being of the customer as they're traveling?
I'm really impressed by the number of airlines worldwide that now have a wellness or mindfulness channel as a part of their in-flight experience. That's one of the things at APEX Global Expo, where we have so many different companies offering those types of services now, which 5 years ago was not there. I think as we look towards longer flight times, like what we have with Qantas and their Project Sunrise going from Sydney to New York and Sydney to London, and also the existing flights that Air New Zealand is doing from Auckland to New York, how they're adding for their economy passengers the ability to have lie flat seats or lie flat beds for 4 hours and actually being able to rent a bed rack in flight.
Yeah.
I think that they're really doing a good job of being mindful of every passenger's wellness. I'm encouraging things that some of our airlines are not yet ready for. So, for example, at APEX Global Expo, one of the things we're talking about is APEX's encouragement for airlines to make sure that customers can opt into being wellness tracked. Thus far, most airlines around the world are not comfy with utilizing the camera that's in some of their screens. And what I'm advocating is, so long as there's a camera cover and an explicit opt-in, then it's okay, because those
Mhm.
same cameras can show when you're getting dehydrated, can show
Right.
when your heart rate is not good, things that will provide added safety. And I hope that over time, that customers will give more trust to explicit opt-in and
Yeah.
knowing that their privacy will be protected.
Okay. So we've talked about what tech will do, and there's obviously with any technology, there's automation. We've talked about how biometrics might require or might allow a customer to travel through an airport with very few touch points. So the question is always around, well, what do people do in the industry of the future as the experience gets more technological? Are people involved anymore? And so I wonder what your view is on that, because we're a people industry, it's a service industry. People will still always want to deal with people when they want to. But what will be the changing roles, do you think, of the airport and airline staff?
I would say let's look at real world and how you interact with friends and with others. We used to only call one another. Now our go-to is texting, and we call if we need to talk. In that same way, in the in-flight service arena, which is covered by IFSA, the International Flight Services Association, which is part of our event, we're seeing that many flight attendants would prefer that they're able to interact through technology with you. So for example, instead of hitting your flight attendant call button, you're able on an app to say, I want a Diet Coke. And the app will say, in your next pass, and then the flight attendant's next pass through in 8 minutes, you'll be delivered a Diet Coke. It's that same type of, how do we make it more convenient for everyone? I don't know about you, but I don't like being the one going ding, ding, ding with the flight attendant button. It's much more convenient for me to interact in a way that I'm accustomed to, which is texting or utilizing an app. So I think we're hitting those right points of making it so that the people that are involved are able to serve you more heartfully and more personally. And yet we're using technology for the automation portion where you don't necessarily, just as we all changed from checking in with a desk to checking in on our phones, I think we're going to see some other areas where it makes a lot of sense for passengers and for their customer experience on board.
Yeah. And is it important? This is an industry that needs people. It needs lots of people and people with skills and talent. And it's out there competing with all the other sectors for the right human resources. And we know that's a struggle. We've seen the impact of that in the rebound from COVID. So is it important as an industry? It's seen to be embracing technology because the workers of the future actually expect to be working in a technological environment or an environment in which the technology assists them in their work.
That's really it. I think if you look at how our airlines are turning to technology to serve, for example, food and beverages on board, I love the fact that Qatar Airways just updated their flight crew system-wide so that they can focus on better serving their customers, always identifying them positively by name, which increases Net Promoter Score. But also, I like how we're reducing food waste. This is one of the things that's important we're covering it at IFSA Expo. 30% of all onboard food right now is thrown in the bin, is not utilized after flights. And by customers, for example, going into their app, selecting their food in advance of their flight, reduces food waste and also makes sure that people get exactly what they want. So it's a great example of how we're combining the right technology in the right way to better serve customers for their in-flight experience.
Yeah. Look, time is nearly beating us, so we'll start wrapping things up. And I know you're looking forward to a great event over in Long Beach. I'm not going to Long Beach, unfortunately. Two colleagues are going.
We have to have you. We'll fly you over.
Well, maybe the next year, I think. But what Long Beach, great place to hold an event, I'm sure, Joe.
It's incredible. So if you look at the U.S., so we're right outside of Los Angeles. This is the New York JFK and Los Angeles are the two places where the most international airlines fly in nonstop. So by having the event in Long Beach, we're able to serve all of our airlines, the entire industry, all of Asia, all of South America, all of Europe with nonstop flights. And we're able to bring our world together. Even our friends at Ethiopian Airlines are flying nonstop. So it's nice to have literally coverage from 5 continents into one airport, and 6 continents from one airport. And we're looking forward to hosting the world at APEX, IFSA Global Expo, and Future Travel Experience Global.
Yeah, and in a world where look, we're doing this over a Teams call, this is half of the course these days. So in a world of tech interactions on digital, still important is it that the industry gets together in person, face to face, and discusses these trends and issues in person?
It is, because I'll tell you one thing that was shared by the person at Emirates who's in charge of passenger experience. He shared with me that he spends more time with his colleagues that are down the hallway in food and beverage at Global Expo than he does at headquarters back in Dubai. And that's so important, is you don't realize that sometimes within airlines, the best way to break through the silo is to go with your colleagues to an event that covers every major sector of passenger experience. It helps our airlines advance more quickly, and that's why we're so excited to invite everyone to Long Beach.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, we look forward to, my colleagues look forward to attending. We wish you have a great show again this year. And I'm sure we'll catch up again in the meantime and see how it went. So thanks for joining us on ABNcast for this episode, Joe. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for having me, Lee, and we'll have to work on getting you over soon.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
We are delighted that our friends at Amadeus have agreed to be the launch sponsor for ABNcast. And while they do not endorse the views and opinions expressed, they are keen to support a new forum for debate around the future of aviation. Today's traveller expects to be wowed way before they arrive at their destination, and passengers want a smooth, effortless journey, combined with exceptional personalised experiences. Embarking on such a major transformation to become traveller-centric retailer isn't an overnight journey though, so how are airlines adapting? Well, you can discover how they are seizing the opportunities afforded by new technology in Amadeus's Travel Technology Investment Trends 2024 Airlines Report. Key findings show 50% of full-service carriers are planning to spend more on technology this year than in the previous year, and 58% of low-cost carriers cite innovation as the top technology investment driver over the next 12 months. In the report, you'll also discover key objectives driving technology investment for both full-service and low-cost carriers, aspirations of airlines on the journey to modern retailing, and the technologies expected to make the greatest impact on the industry. You can download the full report now on www.amadeus.com. Just go to the Resource Centre and you'll find it in Research Reports. And don't forget to subscribe to ABNcast on our YouTube or Spotify channels to make sure you don't miss future episodes. Thank you very much.